Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Ikra Zainab, and I'm a product manager at Nayatel. This session is hosted by Nayatel Cloud, and today we'll be focusing on database as a service with specific attention to Postgres and how organizations can accelerate their growth by simplifying database management. This session will conclude with Q&A segment where we'll be addressing your questions. I encourage you to share your questions in the chat at any point during the session, and our speaker will address them towards the end. Moving forward, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our distinguished guest speaker, Umair Shahid, founder of Stormatics. Stormatics is Natel's partner for Postgres database as a service, bringing deep expertise in PostgreSQL and database engineering to its offering. Without any further delay, I hand to Umair. Over to you, Umair.
Thank you, Ikra, and Assalamu alaikum, folks who have joined in for this session. Welcome you, and hopefully we'll have some fun with Postgres and DBaaS during this time. I see that about 33 people have joined in, and that's a good crowd. Let's take it away. So we're going to be talking about PostgreSQL DBaaS today, and what we're going to do is I'm going to start off by running a bit of a history lesson regarding Postgres, where it started, where its roots are, and why it is that we're specifically focused on Postgres today. DBaaS, of course, stands for Database as a Service, and the Postgres DBaaS offering from Nayatel is the first of its kind in Pakistan. So it's right at the cutting edge, breakthrough technologies, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Now, why am I here talking about this? Well, the reason is I'm a subject matter expert for the Postgres database. I started working with the open source project in 2003. And since then, my job, as well as my open source contributions, have been focused on Postgres. So I've worked in the product space, I've worked in services deliveries, I've worked in internal facing and engineering, internals, pretty much every aspect of the database, and I've been doing it for a while. And my current profession or my current day job is at Stormatics. I'm the founder and CEO. And what we do is we provide professional services for Postgres. And the reason why we do this is that I believe Postgres has tremendous capabilities and it is not leveraged to its fullest in production and in live environments and critical environments. And the way to truly leverage the database is by getting the right expertise in place, and we are here to provide that expertise. That is also why we have partnered with Nayatel, because in order to truly leverage Nayatel's Postgres DBaaS offering, there are times that you will need some help, you will need some handholding. That's why I'm here. That's why Stormatics is here. Now, a brief introduction about PostgreSQL. So first off, I'd like to point out how you pronounce it. I know that people kind of trip up on the pronunciation, and it's a difficult word to pronounce. So the full name is PostgreSQL. That's how you pronounce it. In short, it's usually referred to as Postgres, which is a perfectly acceptable pronunciation. It's an object relational database. Its foundations were laid to make it relational and object-oriented. Open source, fully open source with a very liberal license. Now, why I have to call out the liberal license, because just saying open source at times is not enough. And open source comes in all shapes and forms. Some of the licenses in the open source software space are very liberal in nature. Some are very restrictive in nature. Postgres is one of the most liberal licenses out there, and it allows you to use the database at any scale of data, at any scale of users, of any scale of concurrency, in any shape or form. And it also allows you to change and modify the database to your liking. So hence, the term liberal license here. It complies with the International SQL standard. So, pretty much all of the language and the queries and the SQL that it supports is fully compliant. It's also compliant with, what is normally expected from a relational database. That's ACID compliance, which, ACID is an acronym that stands for atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. This is expected of any database worth its salt. Um, and the interesting thing is, while remaining ACID compliant, Postgres is able to support both structured as well as unstructured data. So structural, relational, schema, and table-based format, of course, that's a given in any database. But in case of Postgres, it also has native support for JSON and JSON structures, along with functions to manipulate and play around with JSON data. It has native support for XML, and you can also have binary files in there, including videos and pictures, which are increasingly popular in this day and age. And whatever it is not supported in the core can get supported by its extension. So it's a highly extensible database. It's designed to provide a core engine, and then you can plug in different extensions that can be written in pretty much any programming language to leverage the database core and add functionality. So that's what a brief intro to Postgres is. Where it started, a brief history lesson here. It started as the Berkeley Postgres project in 1986. It was a university project started in the University of California, Berkeley. At that time, it was led by Professor Michael Stonebreaker. Michael Stonebreaker still tends to be active in the database spheres, not that active in Postgres anymore, but he does move around and advocates for open source database projects around the world. The initial project was sponsored by a bunch of defense organizations in the US. In 1994, however, it was made open source and available to the entire world. An SQL interpreter was added, and there were many performance improvements that were made before it was open sourced that made it up to 50% faster than the original Berkeley Postgres project. And at that time it was named Postgres 95. And when 1996 came around, I guess the community realized that the name is not scalable. So they removed the number and added the word SQL at the end, kind of a homage to the fact that it now had an SQL interpreter. And from 1996 onwards, PostgreSQL exists as an open source project available for anybody to use and leverage. Now, this is, an interesting slide. I find it very interesting because what I've done over here is I've taken research done by Stack Overflow and combine it with some research done by DB Engines. DB Engines is an authoritative website that talks about databases and about the various database engines that are available out there in the world. And Stack Overflow runs an annual survey for its, in its community, in its developer community. And amongst the questions that are asked in that survey are about technologies that are popular among the developers and technologies that are not so popular. So essentially what I did was I picked up the top 5 databases as ranked by DB Engines, and I measured their popularity over the past 6 years as it is defined by the Stack Overflow survey. And what you will be able to see over here is that from 2023 onwards, Postgres has been coming out on top. So 3 years in a row now, Postgres has been the most popular database compared to Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, and MongoDB. What's also interesting is that Postgres is the only database that has been consistently rising in popularity year over year. Every other database has, kind of gone a roller coaster route, or maybe, just gone down over time. For example, if you see MySQL, it's consistently going down over time. Others, a bit of a roller coaster and everything. But Postgres is the odd one out over here with a consistent rise in popularity. And over the past 3 years, it has come out on top. Now, What this means is that if developers are using Postgres in application development, um, as these applications emerge and mature, and as these applications make it to production, the demand for Postgres and the demand for what is called day two operations increases. Now, it's no longer about developing applications, it's about sustaining those applications on a reliable stack in production. And that reliability comes from the reliability and stability of the database, which involves resilience, high availability, disaster recovery, backups, etc. Now, why I say that, why I point that out, I'll come to that in just a minute. But this table right here is a very simple cost comparison of what you can get with Postgres compared to what you would get, as standard in Oracle. Oracle, I use it over here because it tends to be in legacy applications, at least, tends to be one of the most popular databases out there. Many legacy and large scale applications have been written on top of Oracle. But as anybody over here who currently uses Oracle will understand and acknowledge, it comes at a very steep cost. So if you run with Oracle Standard Edition, only the license is going to cost you $17,500 per socket per year. And the Standard Edition does not support clustering. It does not support partitioning. It does not support any advanced security. And if you want updates to your database and if you want support from Oracle, you have to pay extra for that. And in an apples to apples, if you buy the standard edition for Oracle and get support, you are going to be paying something like $21,000 per year per socket. Now, if you want some of those advanced features, that includes clustering, that includes partitioning, that is, those are the features that are required, absolutely required for running databases in production. If you want that, you are going to end up paying something like $107,000 per socket per year. Now, compared to that, Postgres comes without any licensing fee. There is no license to purchase. There is no support, the clustering or features that you need to purchase separately. All of the features that you get with Postgres, to be able to reliably run it in production, they come with the open source liberal license, so they're free of charge, and you can just use them at any scale. And if you want, you can pay for a specialist organization to support you on Postgres in case something goes wrong. You have ticketing-based system for incident response. Stormatics is one such organization that provides that. And very roughly speaking, that is going to cost you $5,000 per socket per year. To compare to Oracle, you end up saving a significant amount of money if you run your workloads on Postgres. Now, why I dared compare it to Oracle, mostly because pretty much all of the features, all of the database features that are generally required in an organization, yes, Oracle is a very powerful database and it provides all of those features, but you can get them in Postgres as well. A glimpse of such features that are available in Postgres. On the left-hand side, the captions are reliability, scalability, performance, and security. These are what you are going to expect from absolutely any database. You want your database to be reliable. You want your database to be scalable. You want it to perform well, and you want it to be secure. There's no doubt that you want all of these things from your database, and Postgres provides them to you. In the right-hand column, however, are areas that are very unique to Postgres. You will probably not find them in other databases. For one, extensibility, which means that if you want to implement a database feature that you don't find, you can write your own extension in any programming language of choice and just add it to the database, and you will get it as part of core functionality. There are lots of extensions out there that provide this core functionality in the Postgres ecosystem, and hence, you get a very rich set of features within the Postgres ecosystem. Now, the community, because this is an open source project, there's a community that is global in nature. You have people contributing to the database across the world. There are mailing lists for the community. There are forums. There are social media groups. There are WhatsApp groups where you ask the question, you get the answer. The community tends to be very active and very helpful. The documentation is extensive. The tutorials are extensive. And it comes with a very wide and diverse contributor base who are all coming together for the passion of the project. The community contributions are not paid contributions. People do that simply because they're passionate about the project. Now imagine the quality that is produced when people are doing something simply because they're passionate. As opposed to proprietary databases, with Postgres, you can be agnostic to vendor. You have a choice of vendors to get support from, to get services from. If you are not happy with a certain vendor for support, you can easily go to a different vendor without impacting your application stack in any way whatsoever. So you do not get any vendor lock-in. With proprietary databases, you are stuck with getting support from the organization that writes that database, that has produced the database. In case of open source, in case of Postgres, you do not get any vendor lock-in. And compliance. Postgres community tends to be a thought leader in setting the SQL standard. So our community members actually sit on the board for the SQL standard, and every new standard that comes in, there's contribution from the Postgres community. In the latest standard that came out in 2025, the graph query language was introduced, and that was driven mostly by members of the Postgres community. That's just an example. And of course, the database complies with both SQL and ACID standards. So the left-hand side, you expect that from pretty much any database. The right-hand column, something unique to Postgres. And I just put together a few logos of organizations that I know are using Postgres. And these are not organizations that I've just picked up off the internet or logos that I've just picked up off the internet. These are logos that I have personally worked with. So I know for sure, I know for certain that they are using Postgres, and I know exactly how they're using Postgres. So you'll see some very big and popular names in there, and some very mission critical data is being handled and stored in Postgres across these organizations. And now, what we get is all of this goodness, all of this good technology, of all of this database power and features locally available at Nayatel. So Nayatel and Stormatics have come together, joined hands to make Postgres locally available as database as a service. And all of that expertise that we talked about, you get that hosted locally with Nayatel. Now, what is DBaaS? It stands for Database as a Service, as I mentioned at the beginning. And the intent here is to deliver Postgres as a fully managed cloud service. Now, cloud is something that's popularized, and we all know what that means. And of course, Nayatel Cloud is where this is hosted. But I want to take a moment to define what fully managed means here. Now, the first thing is infrastructure. The infrastructure is provided by Nayatel. You don't have to invest in or worry about procuring infrastructure and then running the infrastructure. You don't have to worry about connectivity. You don't have to worry about power supplies. You don't have to worry about servers or cards or any of that stuff. The infrastructure is managed and delivered by Nayatel. The database service is secure. So we apply best practices to ensure that your data remains safe and secure. We apply the best security practices that tend to comply with standards like ISO 27001 and SOC 2. You can also comply with standards like GDPR and HIPAA, depending on which organization you are and which regulations you need to comply with. We have also implemented PCI DSS with these services if that is a requirement. High availability, resilience of the database. You don't have to think about replication. You don't have to think about clustering. You don't have to think about failovers. It's all something that gets provided within the Nayatel DBaaS offering. Backups, you have to prepare for disasters. You have to plan for disaster recovery. You have to create a strategy for DR. This is something that's built in to the system where we are taking backups and ensuring that in case of a disaster, your data is safe and you can recover from disasters. Why you should choose database as a service from Nayatel? There's a lot of effort that goes into maintaining databases on a day-to-day basis and keeping them operational. Signing up for DBaaS automates a lot of that stuff. So think about this, all of the weekly or monthly or periodic operational efforts that go into maintaining these databases, you can leave those to machines and you can automate them. And that reduces time for provisioning the database and making sure that every database instance that gets provisioned is consistent. So there are best practices applied to it. It's all automated, so it's always going to be consistent. And it's also going to be very, very quick. Any hot patching, hot updates or upgrades to the database that are required, they're all going to be taken care of because this is provided at the back end. The failover and backup management is built into the package, so you don't have to worry about the resilience and disaster recovery. And there's basic monitoring and alerting in place, which means that you can monitor the database the way the queries are performing, the way resources are being utilized, where you're hitting peaks, where you're hitting troughs, that kind of stuff. You have monitoring and alerting in place. So these are times, but you also reduce costs because if you want to maintain the database yourself and make it operational, there's human effort involved, and you will need that specialized expertise in-house to be able to maintain the database. With Nayatel DBaaS, you don't have to spend on the engineering cost that is required for these operations. So you save on the engineering time and cost. All of the time, all of the opportunity cost that comes in with setting up the environments and making them reliable, you get rid of that because out of the box, the Nayatel DBaaS is ready for operations. And any consistency that might be required for handling scaling or backups, because it's built in, you don't have to spend any time or energy or expertise on it. So you save on that. Even though there's a lot of stuff that is offered at the Nayatel DBaaS, it is still a shared responsibility. The responsibility that Nayatel takes over is for infrastructure, for service operations, any workflows that are managed for backup and scaling, and the monitoring and alerting bit. That's Nayatel's responsibility. Now, there's a shared responsibility, and there are parts that you own. And what you own is if you want to, how you design the schemas, how to choose indexes, how to optimize your queries for performance. What is the access model and how you want to develop access controls? If there are regulations that you need to comply with, what are the controls that you want to implement for that governance? Or you can hire a professional services organization like Stormatics to do that for you. But the point over here is that this is a shared responsibility. This is not something that you just kind of throw over the wall and hope that Nayatel is going to manage everything. So, and that brings me to the end of my slides, the introduction to the database technology and what it means to be offered at the Nayatel DBaaS. I appreciate everybody who has joined in and taken the time to listen to me about this. There are a few. Well, there's a QR code, and I will, Ikra, I will let you, kind of walk people through what action you want them to perform with this slide. But I'm happy to take any questions that anybody might have. Ikra, do we have any questions that we need to answer?
Okay. Uh, to all the participants, you can drop your questions if you have any queries or questions from Umair. You can drop in the chat box and we'll address them.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, I can hear you, Farhan.
Okay. Thanks, Umair. Thank you so much for the session. It was definitely informative session. You
Sure.
mentioned monitoring and alerting. I just wanted to know, do we have logging mechanism in place? Because logging is an important aspect of a database.
Yes. So Postgres has audit logs by default, and you have configurations where you can set the level of logging that you want to implement. So, like any other logging system, you can have
Mhm.
minimalistic logging, which will have low IO overheads,
Mhm.
but the information in the logs is also going to be low. Or you can have logging at a very high level, which will create an IO overhead, but you'll have very detailed information within those logs. So you can track at the query level, you can track every action a user takes once they've logged into the database. You can track where the connections are coming from, what queries they are executing, where data is coming from, and where it's going. So you've got all kinds of audit logging in place.
Okay, is it a part of DBaaS or do we have to sign in another logging service for that?
This is part of the package that is offered.
Okay. Um, and another question from scaling. Um, how a scaling is achieved in Nayatel DBaaS? I mean, what is the mechanism of the scaling when it comes to when we have a lot of load? So how does it scale actually?
So the Nayatel DBaaS works in pretty much exactly the same way as any DBaaS out there, including AWS and Azure.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, in order to provision a certain instance type, all you need to do is point and click, and you'll get that size. If you outgrow that size, you can go to a higher instance. So from a vertical scaling perspective, it's very easy to just simply go to a higher instance and get more resources. You don't have to go through the whole act of provisioning or procuring new hardware. It's just available. It's available with the click of a button. So that's vertical scaling. If you want to scale horizontally, there is sharding in place. There is replicas, read and write replicas and load balancing that you can do. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure, maybe a few people over here might have gone through OpenAI. The company behind ChatGPT recently published an article where they talked about how they use Postgres at the back end of ChatGPT, and they have scaled by creating 50 read replicas for their very read-heavy workloads. So
Mm-hmm.
you can scale horizontally that way. So both vertical and horizontal scaling are fairly simple and straightforward with the DBaaS offering.
That's great. Do we have any kind of serverless type of DBaaS where the instance scale down to zero as well?
Serverless is something that is not offered within the DBaaS platform at Nayatel. Serverless is something that requires specialized products.
Mm-hmm.
Postgres, the way the open source project is designed,
Mm-hmm.
cannot be serverless. In order to make it serverless, AWS, as an example, has created Aurora, which is a fork of Postgres. GCP, as an example, has created their AlloyDB, which is again a fork of Postgres.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you so much, Umair.
Sure, Farhan.
So,
I
Interesting.
see I see another hand up. Irtaza has raised his hand.
हेलो उमर। अच्छा, मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था, ठीक है। उसमें मैं स्पेसिफिकली पोस्टग्रेस से रेलिवेंट था। उसकी जो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन थी अंडर द हुड, मैं डेली अपने प्रोजेक्ट्स में पोस्टग्रेस को यूज़ भी करता हूँ। उसमें उसका एमवीसी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन जो है, उसमें जो हमारी राइट आईओस होती हैं वो बहुत ज़्यादा उसमें इश्यूज आते हैं, ठीक है। और जैसे आपने भी मेंशन किया था कि ओपन एआई ने लास्ट अपना मेंशन किया था कि उन्होंने कैसे उसको स्केल किया 8 मिलियन प्लस 800 मिलियन प्लस एक्टिव यूज़र्स को, ठीक है। तो मैंने अपना एक क्वेश्चन इधर रखा भी है चैट में, उसमें मैंने रेफरेंस भी दिया था उसके ब्लॉग का, जिसमें उन्होंने ये बताया कि कैसे ये जो उसके राइट ऑपरेशंस थे वो बॉटलनेक बनते हैं, ठीक है, जो कि उसका डिज़ाइन पैटर्न है उसके उसकी वजह से। तो क्या हम हम देख रहे हैं कि जैसे जैसे वो एआई का ट्रेंड चल रहा है और बहुत ज़्यादा यूज़र्स शिफ्ट हो रहे हैं हैवी एप्लीकेशंस के ऊपर, ठीक है। तो क्या ऐसा है कि फ्यूचर में जब ट्रेंड शिफ्ट होगा पोस्टग्रेस से, तो लोग पोस्टग्रेस को छोड़ के किसी और डेटाबेस की तरफ मूव करेंगे? उस सिनेरियो में कैसे हम चीज़ों को देख रहे होंगे?
ओके, सो इतना आपका सवाल जो है वो एमवीसीसी से शुरू हुआ था, तो आई एम नॉट श्योर कि वहाँ एमवीसीसी के बारे में आपका क्वेश्चन जो है वो क्या था। लेकिन ये जो सेकंड पार्ट है आपका, जो ट्रेंड के बारे में जो है वो बात करते हैं। देखिए, तकरीबन 23 ईयर्स तो मुझे हो गए हैं पोस्टग्रेस के साथ काम करते हुए। और ट्रेंड्स जो हैं वो आते रहते हैं, हाइप्स क्रिएट होती हैं। एक जमाने में बिग डेटा की हाइप थी, आजकल एआई की हाइप है। हाइप्स जो हैं वो आती हैं, बट हाइप के पीछे जो है वो भागना, खैर लोग भागते भी हैं। आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू क्रिटिसाइज और गिव एन ओपिनियन ऑन वेदर यू शुड और शुड नॉट डू दैट। लेकिन the bottom line is कि Postgres have been resilient enough as a project to be able to survive all of the hypes that has been thrown at it. अनस्ट्रक्चर्ड डेटा, नो एसक्यूएल की हाइप आई थी, बिग डेटा की हाइप आई थी एक टाइम के ऊपर जो है वो। लोग कहते थे कि जी पोस्टग्रेस जो है वो बिग डेटा को हैंडल नहीं कर सकता। इट इट गॉट थ्रू दैट। एक टाइम पे लोग कहते थे कि नो एसक्यूएल को नहीं हैंडल कर सकता, इट गॉट थ्रू दैट। आजकल एआई की बात होती है। पीजी वेक्टर इज एन एक्सटेंशन दैट डज वेक्टर स्टोरेज एंड वेक्टर इंडेक्सिंग इन इन पोस्टग्रेस। और अब स्टडीज आना शुरू हो रही हैं इसके ऊपर, कि जिसमें इवन पाइनकॉन टाइप के जो है जो स्पेशलाइज्ड वेक्टर डेटाबेसेस हैं, उनसे बेहतर परफॉर्मेंस दे रहा है पीजी वेक्टर ऑन पोस्टग्रेस। एंड इट ऑल कम्स विद एसिड कंप्लायंस। सो maybe there will come a time where Postgres loses popularity, and when we get there, we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. At this time, however, it does seem to be an extremely popular database amongst all application developers. और उसकी वजह में से एक वजह जो है वो उसकी resilience है, and being able to provide all of the features that are generally taken as hype.
अच्छा, थैंक यू। ये बिल्कुल अंडरस्टैंड करती है ये वाली बात। पहला क्वेश्चन जो मेरा इसमें पहला पार्ट, जैसे मैं उस क्वेश्चन को मेंशन करना भूल गया था, एमवीसीसी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, उसमें कैसे नेटल जो है वो पैरामीटर्स को अपने फाइन ट्यून करता है ताकि जो राइट ऑपरेशंस हैं, ठीक है, हैवी वर्कलोड के टाइम पे वो डेटाबेस अच्छी तरह से परफॉर्म।
राइट, सो इसके ऊपर जो है वो नया टेल डी बैस के अंदर ऑटोमेशन इस चीज की जो है वो नहीं होती। ये क्वेरी ऑप्टिमाइजेशन के अंदर आता है, या परफॉर्मेंस ऑप्टिमाइजेशन के अंदर जो है वो ये चीज कवर होती है। एंड दैट इज समथिंग इन द शेयर्ड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी दैट बिलोंग्स टू द यूजर्स ऑफ द डी बैस, और यू कैन हायर अ सर्विस प्रोवाइडर टू डू दैट फॉर यू। लेकिन इसके अंदर अगर आपके पास राइट हैवी वर्कलोड्स हैं, या एमवीसीसी आप क्योंकि मेंशन कर रहे हैं, तो आई एम अज्यूमिंग कि कंकरेंसी बहुत हाई है आपकी, जिसकी वजह से आपको जो है वो एमवीसीसी का जो है वो कोई बॉटलनेक नजर आ रहा है। तो अगर कंकरेंसी बहुत हाई होती है, तो उसके अंदर जो है वो उसको ऑप्टिमाइज करने के लिए देयर आर डिफरेंट स्ट्रैटेजीज दैट यू कैन यूज, जो कि स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम द एप्लीकेशन कनेक्शन पूलिंग के साथ से शुरू होके उसकी फिर अगर राइट हैवी वर्कलोड्स हैं आपके, तो उसमें ऑटो वैक्यूम की जो है वो ऑप्टिमाइजेशन, उसके अंदर जो आपके चेक पॉइंट्स हैं उनकी ऑप्टिमाइजेशन, जो फ्लशिंग ऑफ डिस्क हो रही है उसकी ऑप्टिमाइजेशन, ये सारी चीजें आ जाती हैं। तो देयर आर डिफरेंट वेज टू कंट्रोल इट, लेकिन एज पार्ट ऑफ द शेयर्ड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, दिस पर्टिकुलर एस्पेक्ट lies with the user of DBaaS, not with Nayatel.
थैंक यू, थैंक यू।
Okay, thank you very much. Umair, before we move forward, I would request all the participants to kindly share your feedback by using the QR code that is available on the screen. And those of you who are interested in Nayatel Database as a Service, if you fit the eligibility criteria that is mentioned on the screen, you can use this code that is given in front of you and use it in the feedback form. Thank you very much. And Umair, we have Hassan Beg. His hand is raised.
जी हसन
अस्सलाम वालेकुम थैंक्स फॉर
वालेकुम
द
अस्सलाम
सेशन
श्योर
मेरे क्वेश्चन के 2 पार्ट्स हैं एक तो ये कि एग्जिस्टिंग जो यूज़र हैं जो कि ऑलरेडी कुछ MySQL यूज़ कर रहे हैं तो वो कैसे स्विच होंगे पोस्टग्रेस पे ऑब्वियसली क्योंकि कुछ डेटा टाइप्स का इशू होता है कुछ करेक्टर इनकोडिंग का इशू होते हैं तो एग्जिस्टिंग डेटा को हमने कैसे स्विच करना है एंड सेकंड पार्ट ये कि ठीक है इट्स गुड कि AWS के मुकाबले पे या इस तरह हमारे पास लोकल भी है पोस्टग्रेस एज अ सर्विस लेकिन इसका स्लैब क्या होगा यूजेज का पे एज यू गो है ट्रांजैक्शनल डेटा पे चार्ज करेंगे किस तरह से होगा ये भी थोड़े चार्जेस का भी थोड़ा एक्सप्लेन कर दें थैंक यू
श्योर सो फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन आपका जो है वो कि एग्जिस्टिंग अगर आपके पास डेटाबेस है MySQL का आपने एग्जांपल दिया तो आई जस्ट टेक इट टेक फॉरवर्ड विद MySQL we provide services to enable you to migrate from a different database to Postgres उस सर्विस के अंदर जो है वो हम आपका स्कीमा आपका डेटा business logic that is implemented inside of the database इनको migrate करते हैं and then we work with your engineering team to make sure कि application level जो changes required है to talk to that different database we work with you to ensure that the entire migration process is a service that we can provide right from the application to the database and everything that stands in between and we also provide cross training to your expert अगर आपकी टीम जो है वो already MySQL के साथ जो है वो comfortable है और expertise उनके पास है and they want to switch to Postgres तो we provide cross training to Postgres from MySQL, Oracle and SQL Server ये 3 टेक्नोलॉजीज जो है इनकी हमारे पास क्रॉस ट्रेनिंग्स अवेलेबल है इट्स अ 40-hour course that is defined to start off from assuming that people understand a database technology and they want to move to Postgres. तो वो cross training जो है वो हम करते हैं. So we have that entire package in place. Now, आपका जो सेकंड क्वेश्चन है कि इसके अंदर जो है वो चार्ज कैसे जो है वो किया जाता है. This is pay as you go. It's a monthly or an annual charge. I think it's a monthly charge, but Ikra, please keep me honest here. But it is based on the instance size that you select to host your database. तो very similar to what you would do with AWS and Azure कि instance size के ऊपर होता है इसमें transactions या size of data के ऊपर नहीं डिपेंड करता instance size के ऊपर डिपेंड करते हैं charges.
थैंक यू
Sure. Right. Do we have other questions?
Can you hear me?
Ji Suhail, I can hear you. Yes.
Ji. Okay, so on prices, I think this is a very good initiative, very good service because there are no local service providers providing managed services like these. And this is a very good initiative, I'll say, and filling a gap. I have a use case where we are working on localized voice agents, and we are going to deploy with telephony within Nayatel. So we are already in the process. But our main infrastructure, except the telephony part, is on the cloud. And what my question is that what are the prices? Like, are they competitive, like with the other cloud providers, or because normally when you say cloud in Pakistan, that means very, very expensive. So they are not competing very much with the external available cloud services. So my worry is that if you are not offering very good competitive prices, this is going to be wasted. The effort is going to be wasted. So can you provide the prices and what are the plans to compete with the available infrastructures that are out there? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Suhail, for that feedback. I agree 100%. The prices need to be competitive. And we did an apples to apples comparison against AWS and Azure. And I think that if I remember my numbers correctly, we found that our prices were actually 40% lower than the competitive prices of AWS and Azure. It's important to do an apples to apples comparison. So with AWS, we were comparing with RDS Postgres, and in Azure, we were comparing against Flexi Server for Postgres. And we found that our prices were significantly lower than either of those offerings. Exactly what those prices are, I actually don't remember off the top of my head. I'm sure that the prices are available on Nayatel's website, and you can take a look, or maybe there's a link that Ikra you can share with the group where they can take a look at what the prices are. I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head.
All right,
Yes,
thank
sure.
you.
I'm sharing it in the chat. Umair, we had one more question from Sayed Osama Shah. He has asked, in case of accidental data deletion, how quickly can point-in-time recovery be performed?
Yep. So the whole point of disaster recovery strategy is to make sure that we understand what your RTO is and what your RPO is. So recovery time objective and recovery point objective. We design, and again, this is it's a shared responsibility. DBaaS from Nayatel provides you with a platform to be able to design your DR strategy, and you can design it to have an RTO and an RPO of as close to zero as possible. So, as an example, if you have created replicas of your database, and in case your primary has some error or there's some accidental deletion of data, you can very quickly switch to your replica, and that will give you a recovery time of close to zero. Or you could have a backup in place that you can use to restore all of your data, and the amount of time it takes to restore will depend on the size of your data and anything in between. So the amount of time that is required to recover to a point in time largely depends on how you have strategized your DR. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I hope we have answered all of your questions. And I request again all of you to kindly give us your feedback by using the QR code that is available. And also, those of you who are interested in availing Nayatel Database as a Service, you can kindly use the code that is available on the screen. And if you fit the eligibility criteria, we'll reach out to you for the free consultation session. Thank you very much, Umair. This was such a wonderful presentation, and I hope we have answered all the questions and queries. It was very wonderful, and I hope it was beneficial for all of the participants.
Yep, pleasure being here. Thank you for inviting me, Ikra.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Take care and Allah Hafiz.
Take care, Allah Hafiz.